Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, this case is not the case of revenge that the state portrayed in its opening statement. This case is about self-defense. Adam Matos met Megan Brown about 13 years ago in the state of Pennsylvania when he was 19 and she was 18. They had an on-again, off-again relationship. In 2009, she became pregnant. Adam was thrilled. He planned to be the father he never had. As the birth of the baby drew near, however, Megan told him that he was not the baby's father, and she broke up with Adam. But as time went on, the baby looked exactly like Adam. A paternity test determined that Adam was the father. Adam dearly loved and loves his son and wanted to be a part of his life. Be that as it may, this conflicted with plans that the Browns had made. They were going to leave Pennsylvania and move to Florida with their daughter and grandson. They couldn't take Tristan out of Pennsylvania without Adam's permission. They decided to invite him to move to Florida with them. Megan reconciled her relationship with Adam. They were going to be a family. Adam believed that. He helped with the moving. Greg Brown had a bad back. Adam helped unload all the boxes and furniture and contributed to the unpacking and cleaning of the new home. Adam began to feel like he was a part of the Brown family. However, once they moved in, the Browns' attitude toward Adam changed. He had to immediately get a job and pay $740 a month toward rent and other expenses. If not, he would have to move out. He found a job at Denny's about 4 miles from the house. A kind neighbor gave him money to buy a bike for the commute. He planned to make this work. Within weeks, though, Megan began a relationship with Nicholas Leonard, laying the foundations of a very unstable triangle. Fast forward to Wednesday, August 27, 2014. Megan stayed out all night. Adam days earlier found out that Megan had been involved with Nicholas Leonard. Adam was upset, and he did call Megan several times that night. Actually, Adam also talked with Nicholas Leonard on this night. Nicholas texted him, and they talked on the phone 2 to 3 times for about 45 minutes. Adam was upset because Megan had been telling him that she was not in a romantic relationship with anyone. She had been playing constant games with him. They were broken up, and they weren't broken up. During the last week, she would sleep in Tristan's room, but as recent as 2 days prior, she slept with Adam. This is what was going through Adam's sleepless mind at 5:30 a.m. when Megan came home. This is what led to the argument that morning prior to her calling 911. He wanted to know where he stood. Adam had left his family and friends and all that he knew in Pennsylvania to move 1,000 miles to Florida, and all he wanted to know was where he stood. After Adam left the house in the morning of August 28, Megan eventually reached out to Nicholas Leonard. The opportunity arose to eliminate the third wheel. Nicholas armed himself with his loaded semi-automatic Kel-Tec pistol and went over to her house. Before he went over there, he ran into Robert Dunleavy. Robert Dunleavy's father, Ralph, lives in Nick's neighborhood. Robert knows Nick and has worked with him on handyman jobs. Nick was a friend. That morning, Robert saw Nick as he was leaving his father's house. Nick was going to call a cab so he could pick up his truck from the Anchorage bar he was at the night before. Robert offered to give Nick a ride. During the ride, Nick told Robert about his new love, Megan, about her boyfriend who assaulted her. He showed him the gun he had in his pocket, and he told him that he would love the chance to put a bullet in between Adam's eyes. Meanwhile, Adam spent the day in some vacant house's backyard northeast of Hatteras, trying to figure out what to do. He decided to go back home, either work things out or pack a bag of his bare essentials and leave. He only had the clothes on his back. Maybe he would go stay with a couple of guys he knew from work or with a cousin in Orlando. He called Megan at 4:12 p.m., but she didn't pick up her phone. He returned back to the house after 6 p.m. thinking she had left for work. He went in through the side garage door on the east side of the house. He walked up the inside staircase, like he had done many times before. And when he got to the second floor, he heard Margaret's dogs barking like they always do. He walked to his and Megan's bedroom in the southeastern part of the house. As he opened the door and entered, he was surprised by Megan, who hurried out with Tristan. Before he could realize what was going on, Nicholas Leonard appeared out of nowhere from the northeast corner of the room to the left where the closet is and literally went for Adam's jugular with his left hand. Nicholas pulled out his gun from his pocket with his right hand and tried to point it at Adam. Adam resisted Nicholas as they fought for the gun. As they struggled, they ended up in the southeast corner of the room next to the dresser. At some point, Adam saw a knife on the dresser. He grabbed it and stabbed and cut Nicholas deep in his upper left arm and elbow while holding Nicholas's right wrist and gun away with his other hand. This caused a lot of bleeding. Nicholas immediately let go of Adam's neck, and Adam dropped the knife. They wrestled for the gun, standing at first, then falling and ending up on the mattress. Adam was taller, but Nicholas was stockier and more muscular. Nicholas was angry and frustrated that he couldn't shoot Adam. He had Adam pinned on the mattress with all his body weight, but he couldn't free the gun. Furious, he pushed 2 fingers of his free hand in Adam's mouth, and he yanked and twisted his cheek from the inside, yelling, "I'll rip your face off." Right then, Megan re-entered the room with her dad, Gregory Brown. Greg had his Winchester lever-action rifle with a scope on it, and when he got a clear shot, he pointed it at Adam's chest. Adam pleaded, "Please don't shoot me, Greg. Please don't shoot me." Greg ignored him and took aim. He pulled the trigger, but nothing happened. The gun jammed. Greg tried to unjam it and reciprocated the bolt. Megan screamed, "Dad, shoot him! Shoot him!" Adam froze. At this moment, Adam noticed Nicholas relax his grip as if he was getting weaker, trying to get away from the barrel of Greg's gun. But when Greg pulled the trigger, the gun jammed again. This gave Adam the opportunity to get the upper hand and wrestle the gun away from Nicholas while Greg tried again to unjam his rifle. As Adam pulled on Nicholas' pistol, the gun went off and accidentally fired into the west wall, 46 inches from the ground. Greg and Megan ran out of the bedroom toward the western part of the house toward the master bedroom. Adam shot the gun off a second time and felt Nicholas's body go limp. He got up and ran after Greg. Greg had an arsenal of weapons and ammunition in his master bedroom in the walk-in closet. Adam found him with a second rifle in his hands in the back of the closet, turning around to face Adam. Adam shot him in the lower back. Greg continued to turn and point his gun at Adam, and Adam shot at him again. Greg fell to the floor in the closet. And as Adam turned around clockwise to walk away, he spotted Megan behind the half wall in the bedroom with something in her right hand. He reacted, and without thinking, he shot at her. That bullet is what caused the hole in the corner bead. It passed through the corner bead of the wall before hitting her in the left eye. Realizing he just killed the mother of his child, he lost it completely. He muttered and asked Leonard. He walked back to his bedroom, finding Leonard lying on the mattress where he left him. He muttered and asked Leonard, "Why?" And in a rage, he picked up a hammer from the floor and hit him repeatedly on the head. Later, still under the stress and heat of passion from what had occurred earlier and suffering from a feeling of paranoia that everyone was trying to kill him, Adam killed Margaret Brown. The hours and days that followed, ladies and gentlemen, are that of a man who was stuck. Part of him wanted to call the police, but he was convinced that any contact with the police would surely result in his death and possibly to the harm of his son Tristan. That is the reason why he threw all the guns in the canal. He did not want to give the police any suggestion that he was armed or a threat if they were to come into contact with him. He had no great plan or scheme to evade law enforcement or run. Mr. Sarabia said in his opening statement that if this were a book, it would be called "I Almost Got Away with It." The problem with that, ladies and gentlemen, is Adam Matos never tried to get away. He had 7 days between August 28, 2014 and September 4th, 2014, the day Linda Thomas called the police to get away. He didn't even try. Instead, he sold half of the 20-odd dogs in the house for almost nothing so they could be cared for properly, and other items like the TV so he could have money for food. When Tristan slept, he drank beer, so he could at least try to escape mentally, at least temporarily. He was afflicted by paralysis of the soul that would never leave him. That is the reasons why the house was not completely cleaned up. It was hardly cleaned up. He didn't care. He was depressed. He lived day to day without any plan. The only thing he cared about in the world was his son Tristan. He wasn't going to abandon Tristan, and he remained at 7719 Hatteras Drive until the police came by on September 4th of 2014. About the time Deputy Silva and the other deputies accompanying him were unholstering their guns to search the rest of the house, he snuck out the back with Tristan. He and Tristan stayed in somebody's backyard until it got dark because the police had cut off any exit from the neighborhood. When it got dark, he used William Lusk's canoe to row himself and Tristan across one of the canals near Bertram Drive, got into a cab, and went to Tampa, to the Floridan Hotel. Adam just wanted to get his boy off the street and into a safe shelter. He never abandoned his boy. And when he was arrested, he cooperated. He was polite as always. He never tried to resist. He did lie. He lied and pretended that he had nothing to do with the deaths. He wanted to believe that he had nothing to do with the deaths. He was not sophisticated enough to understand legal affirmative defenses. He hoped that a miracle would happen. He might be let go and reunited with his son. When that didn't happen, ladies and gentlemen, he agreed to Tristan's adoption by his great aunt, Margaret's sister, Rebecca Thomas, because he always had the best interests of. Ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of this case, I had you promise to keep an open mind and withhold your judgment until after you have heard all the evidence. At the close of all the evidence, I will ask that you find that Adam Matos is not guilty of any first-degree premeditated murder.